Hello there, and welcome to 10 Advanced Tips and Tricks for Nordhold. In this video, I got a lot of little things which I hope will help you out in getting further down the road, in beating more waves, and getting more glory for your city. So, here goes the very first thing. I want to talk a little bit about the focus settings in your turrets. This is very, very important to configure these. Two things that I want to point out here. First up, you can copy the settings and paste them on other ones. So here, the entry area turrets, for me personally, I always want them to be shooting at the very first person. So I set it up like that, I press C, and I press now V, and I can copy these to everybody. This is a really, really nice procedure if you need to configure a lot of turrets all at once. But it goes even further with the nice addition of, let's build that turret for later, the opportunity to use this. Use for all towers of that type. This is a permanent setting. I made this setup to give you an example how you can layer up a more specialized setup. My Raven towers aim for barrier carriers first, then for minion spawners, and then for the highest HP target. So once you have a setup like that, you can then press X, and every new turret that you henceforth build will use that setup. This way, you only need to do the heavy brain lifting once to get the ideal setup for each turret type for your own taste going, and then you can copy paste it to all of them. I still strongly recommend to have a bit of manual configuration, especially in the entry area where the enemy is in the in sort of a danger zone, but I feel like these things help out a lot. Number two, I want to talk about the auto level system here a little bit. So as you see here, I have this toggled on basically all of my turrets, or this one not yet, but I personally like to go for fire rate automatically, and every once in a while when I have a little bit of gold to spend, I upgrade the other stats. I recommend to choose for yourself which is the one stat that you like to have passively growing and put that onto auto level, and then you manually come back again here in a while and manually level up when something needs to level up. This way you can focus into one stat that grows without you having to spend much thought capacity about it, and you have still the freedom to, for example, level up your arc towers for a higher barrier damage because you need that, for example. Can combine that with the number one tip and give some of your entry level area turrets a special configuration, for example, against barrier carriers, stuff like that. All right, number three, work around favorable terrain. So whenever the terrain works around like this, where it just goes in a straight line, this is basically the worst kind of terrain to work with. There's nothing which the enemy really does that is good for you. These little curves here are good, but the rest here is bad. This is a good example for a favorable piece of terrain. The enemy loops around this island here for quite some time, and turrets that are placed in this vicinity get lots of uptime. They can shoot a lot. And a tower, for example, sitting on this area here also gets a decent amount of area where enemies are at, but much less than here. It even gets better when stuff starts to interloop again. So for example, if the pathing, follow my cursor, would go for this direction, then these tiles where my cursor is right now at would have become a absolute high upgrade in value, because now they could shoot into this and into the hometown direction. Whatever you do, try to avoid crowding too many turrets into these narrow passages where they can't get much work done, and place them down where they basically can shoot 100% of the time, ideally. You always want to have your turrets to fire the entire round. Then the placement is pretty cool. All right, number four. Every build works different. It really depends on what kind of tower fusion system you pick. I've been talking about that in my previous video. Every tower you pick can fuse with other towers, and therefore you will start specializing into 2 or 3 different types of towers, and they need different materials. So this build, for example, is insanely hungry in stone and wood. This means we need to focus into these industries. This also means we can spend the majority of our gold for whatever we want, because we don't need to spend that for other turrets, for example, Raven Towers and Shadow Towers. The gold costs of these rise into really, really substantial numbers eventually. You need to find out what each build can do well and can't do well. For example, a build that weighs heavily into wood has a lot of trouble in building their city up fast because it drains the material for city building purposes. A build that leans heavily into gold on the towers has troubles into upgrading the secondary upgrades here in the city because the towers drain that gold, and so on and so forth. There's really an up and a downside to each and every build that you play, and keep an eye out for it and work alongside your strengths and try to avoid your weaknesses. Number 5, Outposts. So eventually you will unlock the supply depot, which allows you to build outposts outside of the city. These are very, very important resources for you. Build them whenever you can. Choose whatever fits your playstyle best. You can increase wood and stone income with these. Passive income without workers assigned. Really, really powerful. You can boost up your towers, and you can build up a general collector, which is basically the most costly of the outposts, but also can collect gold from the area. If you can or want to go for a general collector, I recommend to go for these first, because the cost increases by 50% every time you build a new outpost, and therefore start with the costly ones and end up with the cheaper ones. Whatever you do, these are a really, really powerful tool for the later stages of the game to get yourself some steady income of things that you need. Number 6, build and demolish. So here is one thing that I really love to do by now. Every tower that you build can be demolished for a portion of their building cost. A Raven Tower, for example, kills the Wave 10 boss basically alone, which means you just build one of these and then you demolish it afterwards to get 80% of the cost back. Yes, you did invest a little bit of the resources into killing a boss easily, but it also means that you can invest into other things instead. I just want to keep you attentive to the fact that sometimes you can place a tower temporarily somewhere where you clearly know you don't need them for a longer period of time. Or here, for example, the Raven Tower has no place in my build. I just utilize it at wave 10 to kill off the boss, and then I sell it and proceed with my build. I just use it as a crutch to get easier over that wave. These things can be really, really powerful, and I'm pretty sure the Raven is not the only trick that you can utilize here with buying and selling. Number 7, there is never too much resource. Seriously, the only resource that you could think you have too much would be food. But here again, there's also things you can do with that. But wood, stone, and gold have nigh endless usages. You can either build new turrets, new upgrades in your cities, whatever. If you have an opportunity to increase the income, do it. Because no matter how far you are in the game, you can always use a tower or two more, and therefore increasing the income never gets old. And this is something that I really want to point out becomes extremely important the later the game becomes, that you keep steadily pushing towards a higher income over and over again, because that is what makes you stronger in the long run. Number 8, utilize in the early game the city growth as much as possible. Go for those buildings as much as you can and invest as little as possible into the towers. Try to get the city buildings up and running as quick as you can, because most of them have bonuses that help you out for the remainder of the run. Bring up the tavern, your workers' productivity increases. You have more resource right from the get-go. Bring up the trading post, build a few ships, you have way more gold. Bring up the guild very early, you have way more gold. Bring up the workshop, you have cheaper towers. There's a very, very substantial bonus behind every one of these buildings, especially, for example, the university. It unlocks the research system, which allows you to research technology for free. You just need to invest time. All of these buildings are so powerful that during the first 15 waves of the game or so, really try to keep the things here as sparse as possible, because it really, really gives you momentum the more power you have in the city and the more resource generation and resource efficiency you have as well. Alright. Number 9, barrier carriers and spawners. As you see here, I have my Raven configured for these, and these are in the transition from the mid to the late game, one of your worst nightmares. I can only recommend to set up 1 or 2 tower types in every one of your runs to take care of the minion spawners and the barrier carriers as quick as possible. Especially minion spawners, there are troop types of the enemy that just constantly spawn new troops. If you don't kill them fast, they stress out your system and overburden your DPS and just overtopple you with a strategy where you would normally win because you would have enough DPS if they wouldn't be chucking out like 100% more troops than usual. Taking out the minion summoners is very imperative, just as with the barrier carriers. Barriers annihilate so much of your AoE, they also need to be taken down as quick as possible. Of course, there's more than this. There's other rules that you can apply here, health regenerators or such. But to me personally, I felt like the most impact had focusing the first most enemies in the entry area of my base, and then focusing barriers and minion spawners. Helped so much. And number 10, if you wonder where to invest next and what to upgrade next, because you notice that your resource just isn't enough anymore to spam more towers because the price inflation has killed you, aim for the lowest hanging fruit. Look for the next cheapest thing. Look for the cheapest thing that you have overlooked. So check out the buildings and check out what's the cheapest thing that you can afford that would make a difference for your situation right now. Speaking about the low-hanging fruit, I want to mention a few of the castle upgrades here because they are so powerful for a very low gold investment. Economy budget. If you run this, you basically get more out of your gold. This is one of the things that I can't recommend enough to build it as quick as possible, because at the end of the day, you just get more done with the same amount of gold. Therefore, this is really, really powerful to rush early on. Same goes for tax burden. This is another thing that I really like to get online as quick as possible because it's steady income source here is very, very powerful. Beyond that, it's up to you to find what currently is the most important thing that is currently the cheapest. It depends on your needs. Do you need wood income for your towers? Do you need stone income for your towers? Check out the resource buildings and check out what you could currently afford and aim for the cheapest thing. It's always the next best thing. Alright, I hope these things help you out. I have much more to say about this wonderful game, but I felt like these were 10 things that were really worth knowing. Leave me a like, leave me a subscribe, consider checking out the description box down below. Feel free to support the channel via YouTube channel memberships or given means down in the description box. Many thanks go out to all of you who do, and especially a great thanks for watching the video until the very end. I really appreciate taking this time, and I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.